make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
I just got a message right now on some NFL news. I'm sorry. Is it okay if I put this out really quick?
All right, thanks for tuning back to the Whistlethrowers podcast. This is Jack Mubarak, joined by
Jack Slideacre.
And we got a special guest coming back.
Arye Pulli from the Sports Place.
Yeah, long time no see. What have you been up to lately?
Not much. Just kind of posting the NFL, reporting, getting some scoops, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I saw you were at Lehigh, was it, the other day?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Yeah, what were you doing up there?
We're working on a story currently for their rivalry game. It's one of the most historical matchups in college football, so we're working on that right now. We were at the Lafayette game this weekend. They played Georgetown, and we should be at the Lehigh-Lafayette game. That is November 19th, I believe.
So tell us a little about that rivalry. That's interesting for PA guys,
Yeah, that's probably one of the most, like I said, historical rivalries, even in all of college football. Like I live pretty local to both of them, so it's a rivalry you pay attention to growing up, and you try to get to every year because it's usually a pretty good game, and it's got a lot of history behind it.
I feel like a lot of the college sports in Pennsylvania are underrated. Not just college football, too, college basketball as well. With the Big Five in Philadelphia, a lot of that rivalry and the history of that is underrated here.
Yeah, for sure.
And how did you come into that opportunity? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
Yeah, we reached out to them, and we had a few back and forth, and we got the okay, and we had a couple people up in the press box, a couple people on the field. We got to work.
Very cool.
You should hit up Aiden at LaSalle and cover basketball.
Yeah, I actually sent a comment on the post about it, but yeah, definitely if you're around, because LaSalle's part of the City 5. Fran Dunphy's back in the City 5 now with LaSalle. This is his third job. He's at UPenn and Temple before, most wins as a City 5 coach. So it's going to be an interesting season for sure, but definitely if you feel like it, hit me up.
All right, yeah, for sure. I'll look into that. I'll hit you up.
Yeah, Aiden does a sports talk down there for the school.
Yeah, I saw that actually, yeah, on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's a fun opportunity to get to talk about local sports, and they're doing pretty well this year. So it's been a lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so Arye, I hear you got some headlines you wanted to break on here. Is there one you wanted to start off with?
Yeah, all right. So we'll start with the Broncos. They're one of the most teams with the most buzz around them. They have lots of players who are in rumors and all that. I'm told that the Broncos are unlikely to trade Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. They were mentioned in trade rumors. Many people talked about him, but I'm told they're not likely to trade him. And teams are calling on edge rusher Bradley Chubb, and the Broncos would be open to a deal at the right price. Denver has definitely gotten offers for Chubb, and they want a little more than a first-round pick in value. The Rams and the Buccaneers would both be interested in Chubb.
That's interesting. I think the Broncos are making the right choice there with the Jeudy and Hamler decision, because when you're struggling on offense and your quarterback is struggling to find a rhythm and he's struggling to get his footing with your team, I don't think it would be smart to trade away two of your top targets. And as for the Chubb situation, I was, just researching just a little bit, mainly looking for Eagles involvement in the Chubb discussion. And I did see that the Eagles called about them too. That was reported. I thought that the asking price was a little too high though for Chubb. He did have, what was it? He was close to 20 sacks, right? In, what was that? 2018 maybe? I'm pretty sure he had close to 15, 20, but the production hasn't been that high since that year, which I believe was his rookie year. Regardless, the talent is still there and, the potential is there. So I could definitely see the Broncos wanting to milk everything they can out of him. I don't blame them for asking for a first round.
Yeah, I feel like Howie's out here just collecting infinity stones. Like he's talking about AK-41. He's talking about Bradley Chubb,
Yeah, he's definitely mulling around.
Yeah.
With him, he wants to get everything he can out of this. With this roster you have, it's not guaranteed for next year. There are a lot of guys who aren't going to be here, guys who are key pieces for this year. Mainly, probably the biggest one is Bradbury. The signs are pointing towards us not going to be able to bring him back to our team,
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to milk everything you can out of the roster and the talent and the opportunity that you have right now, because the Eagles are record-wise the best team in the league, and that gives them the home field for the NFC. You want to put everything into this year and getting this Super Bowl,
Yeah. Ari, what's the likelihood of Bradley Chubb getting traded, do you think, from what you hear?
If I had to put a number on it, I'd probably say about 40 to 50% chance. If they were to lose earlier this morning, which they didn't, it would have been a little higher, but I get the sense that they're open to keeping him, definitely, because they think they can make a run, but they would be open to keeping him, and I think it's up there more than some of these other guys, but it's definitely not very likely.
Yeah, that's a good point you made about them winning this morning, and a loss would have really hurt their chances, but now a win kind of keeps them there. They still have a fighter's chance. So.
Yeah, I would say it's them winning and the Raiders losing as well, because now you have a really good, not a great chance, but a much better chance at getting that third wild card spot, which I think is at this point what they have to be looking at. So
yeah, because the division is clearly out of the question.
Yeah, 100%.
And even something as high as the 5 or 6 is pretty much out too.
I have one more thing with the Broncos. They're actively shopping Albert Okwuegbunam, and they would love to deal him before the trade deadline. That's what I'm told. They would love to just get any draft compensation they could get back. He's been inactive, I believe, 3 straight games, and he's definitely one that would be very likely to be traded before the deadline.
That would be smart of them to, try and get a contender that would, really fall for that and give up a lot of draft compensation, like you said. I think it's smart for them to take draft picks for, a player like that,
What do you expect the package to be like that for a player of that caliber?
Well, for him, I would say it would probably be him along with a 7th round pick for maybe a 6th round pick, a little upgrade like that. Buccaneers or the Titans doing that because they may need a tight end down the stretch. Something like that. Not really huge compensation, but it's something for the Broncos. On the Eagles conversation, I know you're talking about the Eagles, and I feel like you guys are fans of them.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So, obviously, this has been talked about a lot, but I'm told that the Saints would deal running back Alvin Kamara at the right price, and they want a Christian McCaffrey type package. I just got a message right now on some NFL news. I'm sorry. Is it okay if I put this out really quick? I'll stay on the line.
Go for it.
Of course. I will say, hearing that about Kamara, it worries me, not because I think the Eagles would do it, but just because I don't see any team giving up that much for a running back who's not a Christian McCaffrey caliber. I see it as McCaffrey and Saquon being on a different level than any other running back, and that's no diss against Kamara at all.
Right.
I just don't see him at the same level as those two guys.
You see what Henry did today?
Henry's up there as well. But again, the difference is you got a back that can catch and run. Henry's just a straight runner, which is fine if that works for your offense.
Right.
But that's not an offense that at most NFL teams run anymore.
I agree with you with the Kamara situation. I don't think that he's worth a McCaffrey deal. And honestly, I don't know if any running back is necessarily worth a McCaffrey deal. Now, obviously, situation can change that. The 49ers, I don't necessarily fault them for making that decision. And obviously now their offense has looked really good with him.
Much better. They looked like a completely different offense today, just adding that one piece.
Right, yeah. And I don't necessarily think that Philly needs that. I don't think that Philadelphia needs to give up a bunch of draft compensation for a running back that, he's definitely a game changer and he's dynamic, but the risk is not worth it, I feel, for the Eagles because...
Yeah, I would say the other thing as well, McCaffrey covers up Garoppolo's problems.
Right.
If Hurts was not the developed passer, if he was the same passer last year,
is a good point.
this year, then I would want a running back to help cover it up. But at this point, we don't need anything. Like, I would be fine adding a smaller running back piece, like a third running back, just to have someone else in there with Gainwell. Trey Sermon's all right, but it would be nice to have a solid backup veteran running back. Yeah. Sort of similar to how the Eagles got Ajayi in their Super Bowl run. Right. But I don't see them needing someone like Kamara at all.
Yeah, I think this closed the door for Howie, at least, when he saw that.
Right, yeah. Especially when they wanted their first round pick back. Like, I just don't see any running back right now being worth a top 5 first round pick. So,
all right, I'm good. I got that out. Okay, so I'm told from a source, this breaking news, obviously I just posted it right now. The Packers and Texans have engaged in trade talks surrounding Brandon Cooks ahead of Tuesday's trade deadline.
I love this. I love to hear this.
A source told me that nothing is imminent, but the two teams have actively spoken about Cooks. And I was told earlier this week from a source that Houston would welcome a parting of ways with Cooks via trade before the deadline. And over the last few days, the chances of him being dealt have grown significantly.
Okay. Yeah. This is interesting, because the Texans are definitely in a higher leverage spot than the Packers, I feel like, in this spot. Because for the Texans, I think it would definitely be smart for them to deal Cooks. And with a team as desperate as Green Bay is, because they're losing at the half right now, 24-7 to Buffalo. It looks like they're going to be moving to 3-5, and their playoff chances are going to be dwindling before their eyes. So they need to make a move, for a guy like Brandon Cooks. So I think the Texans need to use their leverage correctly here. Not go too far where you end up losing the deal and the Packers say, all right, it's not worth it anymore. But you want to get as much as you can out of Green Bay to the point where they will still make the deal with you.
So, Ari, I just had a quick question about this because this is something I read about Cooks. There's a lot of teams that were worried about the size of his contract. Is that not something that seems to concern the Packers that much?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a concern for every team. You know, he's due $18 million guaranteed next year at the beginning of the season. I think that would definitely lower the compensation that Texans would get back in a trade. I think part of the compensation that the Texans would get back is that the Packers would take on ultimately part of his deal. So they would get a little bit lower compensation in any deal if a team were to take on the contract.
Gotcha.
I'm happy to see the Packers looking to get a receiver finally.
Yeah, no, it's a good move. And, I mean, you have a lot of other you've got Sammy Watkins, so now you'd have Cooks, which are two solid veterans. Lazard's a decent threat, and that puts a lot less pressure off of those rookie wide receivers that have been really struggling for the Packers. So I think it would be a great move for them. I just wonder, because of the size of the contract, is it worth it if they don't feel like they're going to be in the position to win the next few years? Because, I mean, yes, the Lions are looking awful, but if they add a couple more defensive pieces, the offense has been great for them. The Vikings have looked very, very solid this year as well. So it feels like the Packers are losing that control over the NFC North that they've had for a pretty long time. So that's the one thing that I'm wondering about this trade.
Looks like a Rodgers resurgence is coming.
Yeah, I know. This might be one of those mid-season turnarounds.
Yeah.
Like that RELAX moment. Remember that?
No.
I forget what year it was, but they were struggling and people were freaking out, and Rodgers in a press conference spelled out relax, and then he ended up making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing: the NFC is so wide open for the wild card, at least, and even some of the divisions are completely wide open as well. The Eagles, I feel now that the Giants lost today, they have pretty solid control over the NFC East. Mm-hmm. The Vikings seem to have pretty solid control over the NFC North for right now. But if the Packers win 5 straight games, they easily get control over the top wild card spot.
Right.
So that's definitely what they should be looking at right now. If they get the division, they get the division. But they have a really good shot still, with as much as they're struggling, of getting a playoff spot. So they got to do everything they can to get in that position early as possible.
Right. And like you said, Aiden, the Packers, I don't think, are in a situation like Denver. Denver has no chance really right now of winning their division. Green Bay is in a similar position to Denver record-wise, but they are still in a position where they can win the NFC North. You know, they play the Vikings again. They play Detroit twice. And the Vikings aren't necessarily a team that has looked like head and shoulders above Green Bay or anything. You know, they don't seem like they're a lock for their division or anything. I think that Green Bay, if they can put this together and really start clicking, that they have a chance to sweep out Minnesota from underneath of them and really take that division. I mean, when you have Rodgers, I don't think you can necessarily count you out until you're actually out.
No, you cannot.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel pretty confident about the Vikings winning the division, but there's still time left.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
you can never count, like, that's the one thing I will always say. You can't count out these star quarterbacks. Like, even though the Buccaneers have also been struggling, and Ari, I'm interested in what moves besides Chubb that they're talking about making. They could still make a run as well because the NFC South is so wide open, too.
Right. And like you said, like the Vikings definitely have the upper hand right now, and the odds are obviously in their favor. But I mean, they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, and his track record isn't necessarily all that great. And then you have Rodgers on that side, on the other side, that is obviously one of the most accomplished quarterbacks to ever play the game. So this could be set up to be a tight race if the Packers can get Cooks and turn their season around.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of interested to see where Detroit would end up because their record is bad, but they haven't necessarily played as bad as their record is.
Their defense is horrendous.
Right,
That's
yeah.
the biggest thing that's holding them back, and that's not something you can fix with a couple of. And they're not going to do anything at the trade deadline either because they have so many picks. But they're a team that looks like if they can get a quarterback that's not even Goff looks fine in this offense, but if they can get C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, and those two guys for sure.
Right.
And then maybe get a few more defensive pieces in the draft or trade picks for defensive pieces. They could be set up very well in the near future to completely turn around what has been a not couple of good years for them.
Right, yeah. It's like the years after the Jim Caldwell era, really.
Yeah.
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 I'm really excited to see this next take, though, because I really like what Arye's been putting out so far.
All right, so back to the Eagles. I know this is going to excite you. I'm told that the Eagles are interested in acquiring running back Kareem Hunt ahead of Tuesday's trade deadline. It was reported earlier last week that the Browns would want a fourth-round pick back, but I'm told that teams haven't given any offers of that equivalence yet. Cleveland would be open to trading him, which is something that he requested in the offseason, but they would also be more than happy to keep him on the roster and continue forward with him.
Yeah. I don't think this is something we need to beat dead. I think all three of us want this to happen. Like, this just makes sense for both sides. If the fourth rounder is what they want,
Yeah.
they should be able to get
I
it.
completely agree. And, you know, going back to something that Aiden said earlier when we were talking about Kamara, he brought up the Jay Ajayi deal the Eagles made in 2017, and that deal would remind me a lot of this one if the Eagles made it, because Kareem Hunt is sort of the running back that the Eagles need. Just his running style wise, you know, he's sort of a bruiser. You know, he can run between the tackles and he can run people over and break tackles, and he can fall forward and fight for extra yards, which the Eagles are sort of lacking right now. They do have Trey Sermon, who is sort of that, but I mean, Trey Sermon isn't Kareem Hunt. But the other thing that Kareem Hunt adds is he can catch the ball out of the backfield and be dynamic in that sense as well. Kareem Hunt for a fourth-round pick makes a lot of sense for the Eagles in my head.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, no, this is sort of where I think the Eagles should go. You don't give up 3 picks for a running back. And I honestly think that Kamara and Hunt are very similar backs. Obviously, Kamara is far better than Hunt, but Hunt also has the same opportunity that he had in Kansas City since he went to Cleveland. And I'm interested to see how the offense will look if he went to the Eagles. I also think it'll be a great complementary piece to Sanders, because now you have your very fast guy to set up first and second down, and then you have your third down back in Kareem. So I think this would be an awesome trade for the Eagles to do. I don't know why it's taken so long if they're just asking for a fourth-round pick. I would have done it last week, but that's just me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm. They seem to keep getting better. Let's see the next one.
Yeah, I know. And if the Eagles' offense can add that, I think that their second half numbers are going to look a lot different with a guy like Kareem Hunt in their offense. Yeah,
You're good. Sticking with running backs, the odds that Rams running back Cam Akers gets traded before the trade deadline have significantly decreased. But I'm told that the Bills and Broncos are both interested in Cam Akers, but there's no deal that is imminent. And it was reported earlier this morning that he may return back to the team after the deadline. If he's not traded, he may be a candidate to be a post-trade deadline release, but he would return back to the team. He's told people that he would, and it would have to see where it goes after the trade deadline.
Yeah, that was my big question, and you answered it right away, that he would return to the team if he wasn't dealt. But where do you think that would leave him in like the pecking order of running backs? Do you think Darrell Henderson still gets the top nod above him?
I think Los Angeles would go back to the way that they had before. He had these personal issues with the team. I think Akers and Henderson would split carries. I know Henderson was on the lower end of it. I think they would split carries, and a guy to watch out for with Los Angeles, he's coming back soon, is rookie running back Kyron Williams, who's on IR right now. He could have a significant role in the offense once he returns. They're really high on him, and they think he can make a big impact.
Yeah, that definitely adds more drama to this team when they really didn't need any more. I mean, outside of who's going to be the starting running back, they just haven't looked like they did at all last season. And I'm interested to see how this all plays out. I kind of go with what Ari said. The second thing might happen where he just gets released. I don't see his value being that high, honestly. And the teams that you mentioned, the Bills already have a pretty solid running game. I mean, maybe you trade like something like a late round pick for him, but there's no reason to go that high value because their offense looks completely fine as it is. And it's not like Cam Akers is adding that much value, like I said. Maybe the Broncos, but also I don't know if the Broncos feel that they're at a place right now where they need to trade for a running back to win more games. Yes, they've got a lot of injuries at the running back position, and Melvin Gordon just hasn't looked that good either when he's on the field. So maybe just to add more depth to that running back position. But I don't think this one's going to be like a huge make or break for a lot of teams, like you said, Ari.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it would make sense for Buffalo giving up a 7th or a 6th, maybe for him, like Aiden said, a late round. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to reach for him, I don't think that's the guy to reach for. I think the guy to reach for Buffalo would be Kamara. And
you knowing this and hearing this, were you just like completely rolling your eyes when you were hearing like the C-Mac versus Akers swaps?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too realistic. Like I said, Los Angeles has a lot of faith in their current backfield now, so it really didn't make sense at the time. Ultimately, the Niners got him, and that's a stacked backfield there. Yeah. I mean, that's a great backfield.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense for San Fran to make that move.
It did, but also 3 first-round picks for a running back who, although is one of the top running backs in the league, is injury-prone. I don't know. The way I look at it is no running back anymore is worth a first-round pick. It has become very clear in today's NFL offenses that you can plug in almost any running back to a system, and it will still create the same amount of value as you had with your running back beforehand. Now, that's not always the case. Derrick Henry is obviously exception. Saquon's an exception for the Giants. And McCaffrey's up there an exception. But 3 first-round picks, that's a lot to give up for a San Francisco 49ers team that still feels like they're missing a couple key draft pieces to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think like the plan with the 49ers was like they knew like they were going to have Jimmy for the season, and they knew if they wanted to get the best out of him, they needed a very solid, very reliable running back, and they just took a chance on CMC being healthy the whole year. And so far, it's been good, but we'll see down the line.
Right, yeah, because that's been the main knock on CMC. I mean, when he's on the field, he's dynamic, and he completely changes an offense. Yeah, it's the injury concern, and yeah, you're right, Jack, that San Fran is taking a huge risk right now with CMC's injuries concerns.
Yeah, no, and I will say that the offense has looked great in the 2 weeks that they've had him.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like it changed offense, but you just wonder how long that will last. Either a team figures out the offense or he gets hurt. And in that case, those 3 first-round picks that you just traded looks like a huge loss for your team. And who also knows what Carolina does with these picks in the next couple of years, and if it completely changes their franchise. Because if you guys remember, Herschel Walker, who went from Dallas to Minnesota, completely changed the direction of the Dallas Cowboys. This could be a similar type situation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because 3 first-round picks that high could be, significant. And any first-round pick is high in the NFL. You know, any of the top 32 picks are very important. So having 3 of them in the first round, that's a huge plus, you know, any year. You know, it doesn't even matter how you despair the years. You know, the fact that they got 3 first-round picks is enormous.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Right.
Trade deadline on Tuesday. You got anything else for us, Ari?
I have one last thing for you. It's kind of on the smaller end compared to the magnitude we've been talking about, but I'm told that Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki is a candidate to be traded before the deadline, and 3 teams that would be interested, I'm told, are the Tennessee Titans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New York Giants.
I like that move. I think that's really significant, honestly, because
honestly, I'm nervous about the Giants making that move. That would be a huge move for them.
Yeah.
That would.
Especially because they don't have Ingram anymore.
Right, yeah. And
Not that Ingram obviously had his problems catching passes with the Giants, but when he did make catches, he completely changed certain games.
Right,
he did very well against the Eagles, too, in particular.
It feels like if they actually had a solid tight end, they would use that a lot in their offense.
Yeah, and we've seen, I wanted to say this. I don't think this move makes sense for Miami.
It doesn't.
Yeah, because we've seen what a dynamic tight end can do for an offense when you have 2 dynamic wide receivers. You know, look for us, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert is the perfect complement to them, you know, and he's the perfect safety blanket for Hurts. And I feel that's the same way for Tua when you have Tyreek and Waddle on the outside, and if they're taken away, going to Gesicki, having those secure hands and having a reliable target like that is huge for a young quarterback. So I don't think that this makes much sense for Miami. This is a guy that you should have on your team moving forward, and that's a guy you should want to be looking to extend into the future, in my opinion. I think it's tough to upgrade the tight end position, especially dropping off from a guy like Gesicki, who is in the top 15, close to the top 10, versus a guy outside of that. The drop between the top and the bottom of tight ends in the league right now is huge. So I think that when you have a guy like Gesicki, it's important to lock in.
Yeah, and if any of those teams do get Gesicki, that really raises them. Even I think Tennessee would take the biggest leap, honestly.
Yeah,
because
or Tampa Bay, to be honest.
Yeah,
I would argue Tampa, because when they had O.J. Howard and Gronk on that team, they were nearly unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't had a tight end like that this season.
Yeah, wait, what were you going to say about Tennessee?
So that just gives Brady a whole nother option, and a better option, because now you have someone over the middle of the field that you can use almost as your safety blanket, the way they did with Gronk all those years in New England and later in Tampa Bay. So I think that would be the biggest factor for Tampa Bay, and that would probably be the biggest, out of the 3 teams, that would be the biggest leap for them.
So what I was saying with the Tennessee being the biggest benefactor from this was the Titans have they're getting control of the division now because the Jags kind of fell off the last 4 weeks, and when you give them a short passer or blocker, you give a lot of slack for Ryan Tannehill, so you can make those short passes. We know he's not a passer. We've seen it time and time again. He's not going to be a passer, so they should just stick to the small game, short passes, dump him off. And they got Treylon Burks on IR still, so they're not getting help with the receivers. But what's interesting with this is the 2 tight ends that Arye brought to our attention have been linked to Tampa Bay. And to me, I feel like the Gronk door is just shut at this point.
Oh yeah, no, and I don't know how much Gronk could produce now. I think that Father Time has caught up on him, so I think that Tampa Bay has shut the door on that. Definitely, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm excited for Tuesday now.
Yeah, this deadline is going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see what what leaps teams take in this league, because there are contenders, and this league is sort of wide open, especially in the NFC and the AFC. I mean, it's possible to take down the top two. Miami's knocking on the door, Baltimore's knocking on the door, so it's going to be interesting to see if those teams can take themselves over the top.
Yeah, look at the NFC leaders. It's the Eagles and the Vikings. They're probably going to stay there. But the Seahawks
and the Falcons. Right, yeah.
What?
It's open.
Yeah.
It's open, definitely.
That's not going to be what it is at the end of the year.
No,
either.
Definitely. Especially Seahawks and Falcons, they won't be there.
I disagree about the Seahawks. I think today proved that they're up there with some I still think it's Eagles, Vikings, and everyone else, but the Seahawks made a huge leap by beating the Giants.
They did. I got to give them props.
They did. I don't think they'll win their division, though. I think that I think they will be a wild card team, Seattle.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that they have the best shot at winning the division, just having the control of the way that they do right now.
Right.
Obviously, San Francisco's catching up with CMAC, but I like where they're at, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are in a great position.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the headlines you shared, Ari?
I would say the thing to really watch out for is definitely the Packers. Maybe not necessarily the Cooks thing, but they're definitely looking to add a veteran receiver, as I reported earlier last week. That's definitely something to watch out for, because their offense right now is in a position where they need an upgrade, and it would really give them a boost, try to get into that playoffs and try to give Aaron Rodgers the run that he wants.
Yeah. Do you expect an Aaron Rodgers fiasco if a receiver is not given to him by the deadline?
Well, he signed that contract in the offseason. I wouldn't say he really has much of a say of stay or go, so I think he's just going to continue to urge them to do what's best for the team, and in order to compete. I don't think he would. I don't think last off season's going to happen again, basically.
Well, Ari, thanks for coming back on.
Yeah,
and thanks for hitting us up with the stories. We eat this up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We'll get you back on again soon for a longer episode like the first time.
All right, for sure.
All right, so that'll do it. Happy Halloween, guys. See ya.